Hi, roofing professionals. Welcome back to another episode of the Roofing Webmasters podcast. I'm Madison, and today I have with me Jason.
Howdy.
One of the most experienced people in web design in the industry, and one of the top dogs here at the Webmasters. Jason, thanks for being here.
No problem. They made me.
Sounds so official when you say that. Yeah.
I'll do my game show host voice.
So today we are going to be talking about web design. We're going to relate it to roofers, of course, and we're also going to try to dig into some basic concepts behind it. Now, Jason, how long have you been in web design?
Forever. Mm-hmm. I started professional web design in 1997. For those of you who were alive at that point, that means I've been doing this pretty much as long as there was any such thing as a professional web designer. So yeah, I've been doing it as long as it's been a job. I've seen all the different stages of it until kind of the industry became mature like it is now.
Mm-hmm. Talking back about the 90s makes me become a child with dial-up again. Yeah,
it makes me become an adult with dial-up. A nearly 30-year-old adult with dial-up at the time.
Nice. So let's break into some introductory stuff for our roofing professionals here.
Okay.
So obviously there are many professionals out there, and enough of them know that they need a website. That's basic knowledge nowadays.
Finally,
Yes.
it took a long time. I mean, I was still hearing this is just a fad in the 2010s. So, anyway, go on.
We've grown as a people. Yay.
Something.
Yeah. So, but still, there's a significant number of professionals who don't realize how important professional web design is. So, Jason, in your own words, how can web design make a difference for a roofing company?
Well, web design is just one part of your overall marketing effort. It is a good website is the foundation of your digital marketing effort. I can say that with some certainty. Mm-hmm. And web design obviously is a highly important aspect of that. A professional web design is as important as any other professional service you use for a business. You probably have an accountant for your business. You don't just ask anybody on the street to do that. If your business has anything touching legal matters, and especially if you're a roofer, where there's a lot of liability going into that, and there's insurance claims and everything else, you've got a lawyer. Your company has a lawyer, and you don't just ask one of your guys in the office, hey, can you know some law stuff, right? No, you get a lawyer. And marketing and web design is a professional service just like those others, and you should treat it as such. Done properly, it provides the first point of contact between you and your potential customers. It makes your potential customers comfortable with you, makes them think they know you a little bit so that they're comfortable making that phone call and having you come to their house. So that's it in a nutshell.
That's a good point. There are some aspects of business that you just can't get wrong.
Right.
And marketing is definitely one of those. And yet so many people don't realize your online marketing, your website's the crux of that.
Right.
And if you're not getting that done professionally, odds are you're missing out on a very high percentage of potential online revenue.
I mean, he says online marketing, I say digital marketing, but honestly, this day and age, it's just marketing. Online and digital are the biggest parts of marketing. All the other stuff, it's the print and the TV advertising and billboards and paper advertisements of any kind, that's the sideline now. Digital marketing is the centerpiece.
That's where the consumers are.
Right.
Oh. Now, here's a nice question for you. Don't grimace when you hear this. Is web design easy?
No. No professional service is easy, or it wouldn't be a professional service. It is fairly easy to acquire a nice-looking website. That does not mean you have a good website. It means you have a nice-looking one. A nice-looking website can perform not at all in search if aspects other than the visual design haven't been properly tended to. When I say web design, I'm not just talking about the colors and the fonts and how big a picture you use at the top. I'm talking about every aspect of it: information architecture, navigational architecture, visual design, and user experience, user interface.
Actual content.
Actual content. That's everything is part of design. So it's vital, and it's not easy. It's easy to put up a website that looks okay, but that's not even square one. That's before square one. That is the easy part, especially these days. But there's a whole lot that comes after that before you have a good website.
Now that tangents really well into our next question. A lot of roofers out there, especially the ones who are just starting up and they know they need a website, they might do a local search, see who their top competitors are, and say, hey, okay, that website looks good. Why don't I just copy that, and I'm sure I'll be successful afterwards. Can you just copy website design?
Yes and no. Standard SEO answer: it depends. You can decide that you like the way their website looks, and you can tell whoever you hire, whether it's some person in your office or whether it's a company like ours, you can say, I want it to look just like that one, but change out the blue for red and put my logo up there. Now, if that company knows what they're doing, that you hired to do this, and they make it look like that, but then do everything else right, it might perform. But they haven't actually copied it. All they've copied is the visual design, the layout.
Which is a very small part of that.
Which is a very small part of it, and it's fairly standardized anyway. Web design was on its way to becoming a mature discipline and getting a fairly standard look, and then the smartphone happened, and now everybody designs so that whatever you need to show on your web page can be presented on a screen this big. And so you just can't do as much anymore. And so it kind of narrowed everybody's focus. And so every website, if you sort of break it down and ignore the details, you can kind of break them down and they look pretty much the same. They look a lot the same. So you can copy the visual layout if you like it. Now, there's an argument to be made that if your website looks just like your competitor's website, nothing differentiates you from your competitor. That's not an SEO issue so much as it's a more traditional marketing and branding issue. So I don't really recommend that. If you want to use that as a starting point and say, hey, I like this one, but I want something just a little different, so it's I don't want the exact same thing, that's fine.
And that's a great starting point. You can always evolve your brand from the starting point.
And if you look at your competitor's website and you do the same pages they have and the same types of pictures and the same visual layout, and you go through and you just ape every one of their actions, then they did it first and they've been at it longer, and you will never catch them. Because you're not giving Google any reason to show you ahead of them. You have to look at what they're doing and you have to do better and surpass it. Because if you don't, there's no point.
And from a visitor standpoint, this is like I was talking with Amberlynn the other day, it's not enough for people to just find your website.
Right.
They actually have to have a reason to choose you over the existing competitors in your industry.
There are some situations where being like on the top search result results in the phone call. Emergency services. If a massive hailstorm swept through the area and someone has a hole the size of, a golf ball, a basketball in their roof, and they need someone to come out and do something immediately, they don't shop. They put in emergency roof repair, and the top result, they hit call. But that's not there are people who make their whole business on emergency repairs on roofs and, chasing storms and stuff like that. But that's not really, most roofers probably don't want to do that. They would rather have a stable, established business.
Right. And most aren't in the market for it anyway.
Right, exactly. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm just saying that there are exceptions to that rule, but basically you need them to go to the website, and you need the website to help convert them to the phone call, so that you can then, you want the visit, convert to lead, to phone call, and then convert to sale. That's the process. If you have a website that has good SEO and gets them there, but when people get there, they're confused, or they don't like it, or it doesn't give them the connection they want to feel to call you, it hasn't really done the job. So,
yeah, I think with so many tools, on the outside available in the industry, people can point to Wix or Weebly or even WordPress, which is what we work in, and they can say, hey, it's easy enough that maybe I could do it myself. Is web design dead? And clearly, as you're saying, the answer is no. There's so much more that goes into it. What was that?
You didn't let me do my job.
Oh, that's a good point. I tell you what, we'll do it. Is web design dead, Jason?
Yes! Podcast go. Shut it off. No, it is not dead, because if you go to Weebly, Wix, or even if you get your own hosting and do a WordPress installation, which is usually a one-button thing on most mainstream hosting processes, you can then go and search for WordPress themes, and they're a 1 or 2 click install, and some of them are, no offense to anyone watching, totally idiot-proof, and you can go in and you can make a nice-looking website. But again, that's just the visual on the site. There's all the other stuff. But even if all we're talking about is the visual, a designer made the theme you downloaded. So design has moved into another area in some ways, but it's absolutely not dead. It's still absolutely essential.
It's still supporting the industry.
Yeah, it's still, everything's based on that.
Yeah. Now, there are a lot of different elements, like we mentioned, and you mentioned quite a few of them, of web design. I think from an outsider's perspective, a lot of people have a hard time approaching web design just because they don't know how to speak the language. They don't know how to communicate things beyond, this is pretty, I like that, this seems good, can we do something like this thing here?
Yeah.
So I think opening up that communication can be extremely helpful for a professional roofer. With that being said, if you were talking with let's say a prospect, how would you describe the core elements of web design?
When I talk about it, I don't talk about it in those terms like this is what you call the element that sits at the top of the page. This is the navigation. This is the header. Because number one, normal people don't talk like that.
They don't necessarily need to know that.
And they don't need to know that. It's fine to tell me the buttons or that up at the top. I get it. I've dealt with a lot of clients in my time, and so I understand your lingo, and you don't really have to understand mine unless you just want to. When I talk about elements of design, I actually like to break it down to 2 things, which is information and presentation. Information is the content, the videos, the pictures, the stuff that the visitor to the site actually absorbs when they visit it. And the presentation is how it's shown to them and how they access it and how you lead them through the story and show them what you want them to see. And those are the 2 elements. And once you're in the once you're thinking about the presentation of the website, you can mix up and match how things are done. Now, you don't want to go too far afield of what people are used to seeing.
Right.
Number one, because again, it narrowed because of smartphones and having to make sure it was accessible on many screens and all that. But also, in the early days of web design, we would occasionally there were theories that it was a good thing to make the site difficult to use, and that sounds crazy, and it was. But the idea was that you engaged people by making them explore and discover what was on the site. And yeah, it's stupid.
It's
I
hard
was
to
gonna
imagine
use a
that
stronger
now.
word, but I'll just say stupid. But people won't do that. If your website is not very easy to use and something that they are familiar with and intuitive, and by the way, when us computery folk say intuitive, it sounds like some arcane knowledge. It just means what people are used to. Every interface is intuitive if you already know how to use it. And the most intuitive user interface anyone's ever heard of is not if you've never seen it before. So trying to challenge people in your web presentation is not really a good idea. I have a personal site that I do, and that's the one where I indulge myself. And I put up, I write short stories and stuff.
Okay.
And it's formatted not as a website. When you go to the site, no, I'm not going to tell you what it is. It looks like a book, and you click on the book, and the book opens, and the stuff is on the page here, and there's a table of contents, and it looks like it's sitting on a desktop, and you're looking down at an open book. It looks like something from a video game. And now this site is not commercial. It's just for me to play around on, and I do nothing to try to drive traffic to it. It's just purely for my own pleasure, and I get people, because like my Twitter is linked to it. And people will tweet me on Twitter, this site sucks, I can't figure anything out. There's no stakes on this, there's nothing to buy, there's nothing. And people will still complain about it being not standard. So you can imagine what it's like if you're actually trying to get people to buy a service. Don't do it.
That's a great point. Like so many people, when they're frustrated, they're flustered, they're dealing with a roofing problem that they know ahead of time is going to cost them hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars.
Maybe tens of thousands. If they're doing a full re-roof, I mean, if you've got somebody in a large home who's redoing a slate roof,
oh gosh,
cha-ching.
Yeah.
And they don't want to be challenged. They want to feel like you know exactly how to take care of their problem. And sorry, my phone is going off like crazy and it's bothering me.
Is it an Amber Alert?
No.
Is it a Nolan Alert?
No, it is not. It's another employee alert.
Oh, okay. Well, that's such a great point, though. Like so many people, when they're dealing with their problems, they don't need another problem of trying to find their way through your website.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when they're looking for a new roof, they have a problem. Now, it might be a great problem. They might be building their dream home, but their problem is still that they need a roof put on it. And you need to make that easy. And that starts with your website. So it sounds strange, but making them feel comfortable with you, that starts right there.
Now, what do you think are the most important elements to make a visitor comfortable on a website?
Personalization. If your site is just stock photography, it's a template layout with stock photography, they can tell because they've seen that same website repeated over and over because those templates get reused. And like I said, the website kind of looks similar anyway. So the big one is the stock photography, if I had anything to say. Personalizing your website with pictures of your crew, pictures of homes you have worked on. You might be tempted to think that if you're not a really good photographer or can't afford a great photographer, that's bad because you need professional photos. And hey, professional photos would be great. I'm not going to knock professional photos. But a unique photo that maybe isn't a prize winner is better than the best stock photo. Because Google looks at your website. Yeah, let's start. Google looks at your website, and they're not as impressed by it if you're using the same stock photo 100 other people have used. And then if your potential customer looks at it, they've seen those stock photos too. It's not just Google that's seen them. Everybody's seen them. Half the roofers in your area will have that same picture of a house as the header of their site. So you should try to do better. Pictures of you, the business owner, maybe with your crew, stuff like that. That stuff goes a long way. That helps people convert. When they see what is obviously an actor in a get-up or whatever, especially since a lot of the stock photography comes out of the Northern Europe.
We have this one stock photo actor that we lovingly refer to as Vlad. And so whenever he dresses up as everything, we'll be like, oh, hashtag Vlad is sad, hashtag Vlad is mad. But it's the same guy over and over again in different get-up, yeah.
Yeah, you'll see the same person used hundreds of times. And you'll get weird stuff like in Europe, plumbers will wear a hard hat.
Yeah.
And they don't do that here. So when the client looks at what's supposed to be an average plumber and he's sitting there in a bright blue
jumper
coverall and a yellow hard hat, even if they can't articulate it, they know that's slightly wrong, and it immediately puts them off.
Yeah. Even just having been here almost 2 years now and worked on a bunch of the client sites.
So many, yeah.
It's just amazing how rare it is that a roofer will come and say, hey, here's our original photos.
Yeah, it is rare, and it should be more common. Because
Yes.
it's one of those things that we can't necessarily do for you because we're not on location with you.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the things that you can do to help us help you, kind of thing.
Please grab an iPhone and take pictures.
Take your phone. Take your phone out. Take pictures.
Yeah.
And it cannot be overstated how powerful an impact that can have.
Mm-hmm.
Video even better.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Of course, there are a bunch of other elements that you'll see just on any given homepage that have come to be expected. So navigation, and those easy links here and there. It's amazing how effective that can be for keeping people on your page.
Yeah, you might have a designer who is tempted to hide all the navigation behind what's called the hamburger icon, which is those 3 lines.
Oh yeah.
Don't do that. It's a little more acceptable on mobile where screen real estate is at a bigger premium.
Mm-hmm.
But on the desktop, have that stuff easily available. Don't make them tiny. Don't make them hard to read. Don't let your designer do a weird font that's hard to read with weird color combos. Do high contrast, easy to read, easy to see, easy to understand.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, you do not want people to have to think about it, really. It's like, do they do metal roofing? Services offered. We'll drop down metal roofing. Boom. There we go. Done.
Now, usability obviously is such an important factor. It keeps people on your website, but they actually have to get there in the first place. Now, what elements of web design are going to be contributing most towards search engines and the SEO and stuff like that, getting people on your site?
That's content, absolutely. Pretty website, nice pictures, great navigation, yada, yada, yada. That's all bonus points with Google.
Mm-hmm.
Without the content, no one ever sees anything because the content tells Google what you do. It tells them what you can say you're a roofer, and if you put up a one-page website saying, I am a roofer and this is where I am, please call. Google does not know. They know you're a roofer, but they don't know what specific services you offer.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't know what services to show you for. And the only way they're going to show you is if nobody else has done better. Like if you're the only roofer in the area and you have a one-page website, you're the only one. Yeah, fine. If you're in a tiny market somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But if there's any competition, you have to inform Google what services you offer, and that means content.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't just do it with a bullet list on one page because that's not sufficient.
Oh,
You
gosh.
have to have pages of content for every service you offer.
Yeah.
Robust pages of content.
Yeah, and neatly organized as well. At least that's helpful for usability, but also from an online search perspective.
Oh, Google likes to see that.
Yeah.
They don't just look at the pages like it's just a pile and read the content. They look at the site architecture itself, and they want to see certain types of architecture, and they like to, they absolutely look at that and they rank it.
Now, you and Nolan talk about schema and structured data a lot.
Mm-hmm.
How does that feed into that?
Structured data is fancy labeling, and what it does is it canonically tells Google what parts are and it gives them the intent. This that we're showing you here in this paragraph, this is a service. This is a service we offer in this geographic area. And the structured data takes what is just content and gives them context. It's just fancy markup and labeling that gives them extra context for the content they're seeing, and then they know that there's no guesswork. They know exactly what they're looking at. And if they have to guess when they look at your site, then they're having to guess if they should show it. If they're not having to guess when they look at your site, they're not having to guess if they should show it. If you're saying this is what we offer, then when someone types in looking for this service in this area, they're like, oh, that guy right there offers that service in that area.
We know for certain
right there. Yeah. Boom, there they are.
Yeah, yeah. That reminds me of righteous reviews and all the other aspects of evidence that you can show that we're actually doing the service in this specific point of our community. And that's just more evidence that you work those services.
Yeah, Righteous Reviews is a review and reputation management software that we created. And it allows you to check in. If you've watched any of our podcasts before, you've probably seen me and Nolan go on and on and on and on and on about it. When you do a Righteous Reviews check-in, it puts in structured data markup that delineates the service and the location with geodata that applies to a Google map, reference. And Google sees that, and then they're like, not only does this guy say he does it, he's got this geographic data saying he was there doing it last week.
This is where they did it.
The house across the street from that one is asking for this service right now. There is no more relevant answer than this one. And that's the big thing, relevance and proximity. And that hits both.
It's local search marketing for you. So we've talked about elements of the user experience from web design. We've also talked about elements of SEO. And obviously all these things are working together for better sales.
I would like to make the point that user experience is SEO.
Yeah.
Everything on your website is SEO. SEO is not a thing you tack on to your site. It's built in. User experience affects how long users stay on the site, which affects bounce rate, which is a ranking factor. Ergo, user experience is SEO. Go on.
There you go. I have been corrected. All right. Now, again, we've talked about a lot of stuff. Can a roofing professional deal with this sort of stuff reasonably? Should they have to deal with this stuff?
What do you mean deal with it?
There's the aspects, there's the visual design.
You mean should they do it themselves?
Yes.
Oh, no. God, no. Any more than you would do your own legal work, do your own accounting, any more than you would act as your own doctor or dentist or any other professional service that you require. This is a professional service. View it as such. And then the answer becomes very clear. Whether that is an agency like ours or you hire someone internally to do it for you, the internal marketing person, to my mind, you might hire a really brilliant person to come in and run that for you, but it's one person. An agency has multiple people who have expertise in a certain area, and you get the expertise of multiple people concentrating on one discipline, and you get all that mixed together to give you this amazing product, this amazing service, right? If you've got one person, that person might be really good, but they're not going to be as capable as 20 people, all of whom are very good themselves. So that's just personal opinion. I won't call the Webmasters not just one Webmaster.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Even just the difference between hiring somebody and paying them, if it's an experienced designer, tens and thousands and thousands of dollars every year, versus a percentage of that every month.
Yeah,
it's a big deal.
And I get it. Some people they entrusting their web marketing effort to an outside agency can be a little nerve-wracking because
Yeah.
you're giving up control. And a lot of people want to keep that control, and that's why they want someone in the office that they can stand by and slap them upside the head if they do something wrong. I get it. I want to slap these guys all the time. But you're going to get better service, and you're actually probably going to spend less money if you go to an agency.
Now, that in itself, finding the right person is a serious challenge because there's so many different agencies out there, and even just individual professionals who have, I have the latest gimmick on so-and-so. I have the latest, I think you called it social fortress.
That's one of my pet peeves. Don't get started on that.
The latest insert gimmick, a gimmicky title that you can think of. If a roofing professional is to protect themselves, how can they discern the losers from the winners, basically, in marketing? At least in web design.
Winners don't have gimmicks, they have services. If it's a gimmick, run. If they come to you and tell you this one thing is the key to SEO or the key to Google or whatever, run. There is no one key. There's 100 different things you got to do. If you feel like they're telling you what you want to hear, they probably are. Speaking of, since he brought it up, I'm going to tell the story. Okay, the social fortress thing. We had a client was contacted by another marketer and sold him on the idea of doing some of his social media marketing. And he wasn't quite sure what service he was getting, and they were charging a lot, like more than we charge, or charged at the time. And he had been paying them for 4 months. And we still have this client, by the way. This is a happy client. And this is just someone who called him with an extra thing he could do, and he thought, well, why not? I'll give it a try. You know, I get it. And he calls me and he goes, I don't understand what this person is doing. And I said, well, you didn't tell me about this before you did it. You didn't ask my advice. So, but I can tell you, what did they say? And he goes, and he sent me a report they sent him about what they were doing. I said, how much are you paying for this? He told me, and I was like, well, I'll say Bob. That's Lenore. That's
the go-to.
Yeah, that's the default name, not his real name. Bob, I think you're getting ripped off, and I do not like ripping on other professionals in my field or slamming anybody. But they had told him in their report that they were building a social fortress to protect his brand. Now that sounds really cool. It's a nice buzzword compliant phrase. What they were doing is they were going to every imaginable social media and community platform and registering an account in his company name. Now, number one, that's real easy to do and literally cannot be screwed up. That is something you could put a trained chimp on in the corner and it would get done. Number two, you don't need to do it. You need the major social media. If there is a social media for roofers, I haven't heard of it. And you would need to do it there. You want to do it on anything, you want to do it on things like LinkedIn and any home service specific listings. You want to have it. And we do that, by the way. We refer to it as citations. But I looked through the list they gave me, and I found that they had given him an account on what's called DeviantArt. DeviantArt, for those that don't know, it's an online community of artists, illustrators, painters, and the like. You can find some really great art on DeviantArt.
Probably not the kind you'd want.
What you don't go to DeviantArt for is a roofer. And so what this person was doing was padding a report with a long list of accounts she'd made for him that were utterly useless, performed no function, did not help him in any way, and it was all gimmicky BS. And that is actually, that particular one gets me hot under the collar because that was just absolute garbage. And when I explained to him what was going on, and I picked out a few other the things on the list that were just useless, he canceled the service. The service with the other person.
Yeah.
But things like that, gimmicky stuff, really buzzwordy sounding stuff, is something I would avoid. The other one, and it's going to sound weird, guarantees. If someone guarantees you the top spot on Google, they are lying. The only people that can guarantee the top spot on Google is Google. If I had a
if
button,
they can.
yeah. If I had a button that controlled Google, I would not be sitting here with these guys talking to this camera.
You'd be stacking piles of cash on you.
I would be sitting in a Ferrari on a beach drinking a Learjet. Yeah, so nobody can guarantee that top spot, period. Yeah. Now, if you're doing pay-per-click advertising, if you spend enough money, you can guarantee the top space on the page. But the whole point of SEO is it's not as expensive as PPC.
Right.
Which is why it's much better bang for your buck, and that's why you want to do it.
And most people don't even pay attention to those ads anymore.
Yeah, 76% of all users skip to the organic results and ignore the ads. So you're paying a lot more for a lot less when you go on the PPC route. Not the PPC's terrible, but SEO is definitely the best return. Mm-hmm. So those are my things that I would say avoid.
Mm-hmm. And I think for a lot of roofers, if they're curious, like, okay, what is a gimmick? Most of the time, whenever Google comes out with the latest update, whether it's quarterly or a surprise monthly one, like they've done recently.
Yesterday.
They'll always reiterate, yeah.
Seriously, yesterday.
They'll always reiterate, focus on writing excellent content for people. Now, if you're wondering if something is a gimmick, just think to yourself, is this creating a great user experience for our customers? Is this something that Google would like to see on a regular basis? Does it line up with their recommendations and guidelines?
Right.
And if it does, odds are you're going to see better returns over a longer period of time.
Right.
However, if you're gambling on a gimmick, it's going to sound like, oh, this secret method or this new fancy technology that really, it's not content, it's some fancy mumbo jumbo.
If it sounds like a trick, it's a trick.
Yeah.
And also, if someone's trying to sell you on something like this, if they're only talking about one thing, it's a gimmick. Because SEO, again, is not one thing. So if they just keep coming around and saying social fortress, or they just keep coming around and saying
backlinks.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, backlinks is an important part of SEO, but they're not the only part. They've actually been diminished in importance in the last couple of years, and they can't look like you bought them. They have to look organically obtained. So if someone's talking about getting you a bunch of links, they're doing it in a way that's spurious and should be avoided.
Mm-hmm. Well, we've hit on a lot of different aspects, a lot of different takeaways that roofers could
This
grasp
went way
onto.
past what most people probably think of when they say web design. But
Yeah, we've definitely broken into
it's your
other
fault for bringing
aspects.
me in here.
I'm sorry. Now, Jason, let's say that a roofer has just this very second came in the very end of the video and hasn't heard a single word that we've said before. I'm sorry, guys, you missed a good video.
Back it up and watch it.
Yes.
I like how you're acting like it's broadcast TV and there's no hope. That's how it was when I was a kid. We didn't even have VCRs when I was a kid. So if you missed the broadcast, you had to wait till summer reruns.
I always came in the last 5 minutes of Carmen Sandiego somehow. I don't know how. Yeah. Anyway, back on our big finish here. What would you say would be your number one takeaway for roofing professionals when it comes to web design? The one thing you want them to remember?
Get professional help.
We're not calling you crazy.
No, I mean, it was kind of a joke, but it's still true. Get a professional. Don't think you can do it yourself, because you can you can manage to make a pretty website by yourself, probably, if you've got a good eye. If you don't have a good eye, you're going to take a template and you're going to ruin it. But you can probably make a pretty website by yourself, but you can't make a well-designed website. You can't make a website that performs and does what you need it to do. That's not a slam on anybody watching this. I can't put a roof on. And that's why if I needed to do that, I would call one of you guys.
We're not doing shingles here.
Yeah, we're a professional service. Web design and SEO is a professional service. And treat it that way. And get a professional to do it, whether it's the Webmasters, which it should be, or whoever else you choose to go with. That's the takeaway.
That's a great point. And there are so many things, so many services that you rely on, like accounting and whatnot, that you can't afford to get wrong. Marketing is just one of those services.
Absolutely.
Even if it doesn't just outright kill your business, which it can if you get it wrong.
Right.
Messing up on web design could set you back thousands, tens of thousands of dollars. For some professionals, we've seen it set them back millions of dollars. That one roofer you were telling me about the other day. So,
which one?
The one who messed up who accidentally messed up his GMB account.
Yes, we'll tell the story because it's relevant. We had a roofer that thought he could handle it all himself. He got hundreds of reviews on Google My Business,
and he was a good roofer too.
And he was a good roofer. He didn't do it. He wasn't like he wasn't a scam artist or anything. And then all of a sudden one day his GMB account disappeared and his website disappeared from Google search. And he called us. He wasn't a client when all that happened. He called. He found us and called us. And after a lot of digging around and a lot of questions, we figured out that he was giving customers a Starbucks gift card for giving them a review. He didn't even demand a good review. He just said Starbucks gift card with a review. And as far as Google's concerned, that's payola. It's not allowed. As soon as they figured out he was doing it, don't ask me how they figured it out. They figure everything out. Just assume they know what you're doing. Assume they know what you had for lunch on Tuesday 3 weeks ago. And just assume they know, and you'll be better off.
I'm putting on my tinfoil hat.
And when they figured it out, they wiped him out. And he didn't do anything with bad intent. He wasn't a bad guy. He wasn't trying to scam anything.
He was great at his job.
He was just trying to encourage his clients to give reviews. Again, he didn't even demand. He gave them the card after they gave a review. He didn't even demand to be a good one. If they gave him a bad one, they still got the card. He was very even-handed about it. But it still was the wrong approach as far as Google's concerned. Had he had a professional service helping him, if he had been our client before doing that, he would have called us and said, "Hey, I'm going to do this to get reviews," and we would have said, "God, no, don't. No. You will be gone. You will cease to exist as a business, as far in Google's eyes, and that's the eyes that counts. I hate to say it, but it's true." So yeah, that can be the impact of a professional service. Other than all of the other services we could have performed for him, simply our knowledge of the Google system
would have saved him millions of dollars.
So there you go.
So find somebody you can trust, whether that be us, and we hope it will be, but find somebody who knows their stuff so that you can get on top of your web design.
So that their knowledge becomes your knowledge.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, y'all, thanks for listening in, and we'll be back next time. Jason, thanks for sitting in and for your insights.
Take it easy.
Thanks for coming.